Hello, this is Aiden Hirshfield from Fielding Graduate University. I'm here to present my oral QE, which is being submitted as part of the qualifying exam for advancement into doctoral candidacy. So today I will be discussing proposed research, which is about the use of Instagram and selfies to explore body image in gender diverse individuals. We'll cover a couple topics here, including gender variance in media, body image, Instagram and selfies, as well as some methodology and the proposed research question. We'll also have a quick little recap at the end. So to do this, we have to have a common understanding first of what gender is. And first and foremost, gender is a construct. It's flexible and moldable, and it changes over time and space. And the formation and experience of navigating gender is complex. It's interpersonal and it's unique. Everyone experiences and communicates their own sense of gender differently. So we'll use the term gender variant to apply to individuals who identify outside of the gender binary, which is male or female, and express themselves in diverse ways. This is the antithesis of cisgender, or those who identify with their assigned binary sex at birth. Some of the identities that this includes or incorporates are trans, non-binary, gender fluid, bigender, agender, and many more. So it's really a broad definition that's inclusive of all these different labels and identities and forms of expression. And it's important that we do this because we have to expand the language that's being applied. And this is based on population data that we have received in the last few years. So in a recent survey on the transgender population, researchers found that more than 35%, or 1/3, of respondents indicated that their gender identity was best described as non-binary or genderqueer. Though when you examine the body of research on gender diverse populations, it becomes evident that there's an assumption of transness or trans identity, when it's clear that there's a much broader spectrum of gender identities involved here. Now, this idea of transness, or what it means to be trans, or what trans looks like, it's reflected in media. So many of us remember the very public coming out of Caitlyn Jenner, which seemed to spark global interest in the transgender community. However, Caitlyn Jenner has access to transitional care, like hormone replacement therapy, gender-affirming surgery, and a variety of other privileges. With nearly 1/3 of the US transgender population living in poverty, it is difficult and unlikely that many trans people who desire this kind of care will have access to it or can afford it. And not all transgender people seek to medically transition from one gender to another. It's a much deeper and more complex process than we could really hope to explore here. But what's important to understand is that this polarization of gender variant groups, like the transgender community, into masculine or feminine labels forces gender variant individuals to adapt to binary expectations rather than celebrating their unique forms of self-expression. So the question then is formed: how does media affect body image in gender variant individuals? And what can we learn about the gender variant community through social networking platforms? A focus of this research is on body image as it relates to both the lived experience of gender variant individuals and the narrow portrayal of gender variant bodies in mainstream media, this cause and effect relationship. And one of the formative studies that really helped create this was conducted by Conseco, Hurley, and Bond in 2016. They found a couple of key important things about the uses and gratifications of media by trans individuals. They found that transgender individuals used media to make sense of feelings, sexual relations, community, and transition options. That they used media to create a shared meaning of transgender identity and experience. That media helped facilitate these difficult conversations that could otherwise be considered dangerous in face-to-face situations. Now we're talking about a community who is not only impoverished, but has, in many places, a lack of civil rights. And they also used media to construct and facilitate community development, including, like we discussed, the formation of common language and definitions. So media in this context really seems to be acting in both a cause and effect role. Again, it's limited and narrow in the depictions of gender, right? So these limited and narrow depictions of what gender looks like or what it means to be trans, it forces these individuals online. And then they use the internet to cultivate new forms of expression and identity and to share this common narrative. Now, we have to understand that identity and body image, though, are inexplicably connected for the gender variant community. The experience of navigating gender variant identities often places individuals at odds with the body characteristics related to their assigned sex at birth. Now, body characteristics that influence passing or social gender perception, these are things like facial hair, breasts, stature, voice. They create common practices like binding, packing, padding, tucking, and shaving. And these can be seen as attempts to better align with social and personal appearance expectations. Similarly, body modification, such as surgery, hormone replacement therapy, piercings, or tattoos, are also linked to self-acceptance, coping, and resiliency. In a recent study, individuals indicated a complicated relationship with the mirror, as we see here in this image, in which they engaged in or avoided the mirror as a result of their body image. A potential link here may exist between gender variant experience with mirrors, and selfies. We have to do a little more research to understand. However, though, not all gender variant individuals have access to gender affirming resources like we discussed. Not all of them desire body altercation. And more importantly, not all gender variant individuals experience body dissatisfaction or dysphoria. But the key here is really social acceptance, and that's the key to body satisfaction. Transgender individuals describe better body image in contexts where they are not required to conform to a binary ideal of gender expression. So it follows that social environments, like those online, which facilitate ambiguous gender expression and acceptance, will help gender variant individuals explore and present themselves in unique and even potentially more satisfying ways. So this kind of helps us understand why gender variant individuals seek online spaces and what they might be doing with those spaces and why it's important to have those. So when we think about this relationship between bodies and images, it's evident in the practice of taking and sharing selfies, which are self-portraits. So selfies have the potential to be self-therapeutic and awareness raising. They could be practiced in relation to knowing and understanding and experiencing the body. Selfies can empower marginalized communities by facilitating dialogue about issues and the everyday realities of shared experiences. As gender variant individuals utilize tools like selfies, they add to the growing narrative and help others feel affirmed in their bodies. So, really, this is the facilitation of body positive environments. And it comes through this spiral of sharing and learning new ways of looking. And in that, we challenge the stereotypes and preconceptions of gender. But also, researchers have connected the selfie experience to things like low self-esteem and perfectionism, which could be true for the gender variant population due to that complex and strained relationship with body image that we discussed. So selfies are an important tool. The phenomenon of selfie practice, really, this taking and sharing of selfies, it's a negotiated and complex activity that spotlights the tensions between the act of self-shooting, normative assumptions about gender and body image, and the ecology of images themselves, and elucidates issues of control, power, and agency in the practices of looking and being seen. So this is selfies as beyond a form of self-branding, really beyond the low self-esteem and the perfectionism that we're seeing. It's really mitigated by the desire to be validated and affirmed in the community rather than this social expectation of evaluation or validation. So the shared experience of selfies is deeply embedded in the sociocultural context as a conduit for community dialogue and social change. And I chose to focus on Instagram due to its popularity with the gender variant community, as well as research that has explored body image and selfies in similar contexts. Now, we can discuss a little bit of the methodology and how I'll approach this. It'll be in two parts. The first part will be to identify hashtags, and these are the codes that are used to file and store images online. So using the Instagram interface, we can search for images using these hashtags. And these hashtags will also help us identify related images as well as similar hashtags. And those can be later used for thematic analysis, which brings us to the second part, thematic analysis. So in conjunction with captions and hashtags, the images will be coded for variables related to selfies and body image, like physical appearance, image content, activity. And that leads us to the proposed research question. So if we know that the gender variant community is online, we know why. We know that they self-identify, they post selfies, and they engage in community dialogue. So the question then is, what are they saying, both in images and in words, and what can be learned? So my research question is, what common language and themes are present in public Instagram selfie posts by gender variant individuals in regards to gender identity, expression, and body image? It's really a holistic view of what's happening. And just so we understand the flow of what's happening, here's a quick recap for us. So we know that gender is a socio-cultural construct and that it's flexible and moldable. Gender variance refers to the larger community of individuals who identify or express themselves outside of the gender binary, which is male or female. We know that gender variant individuals experience a uniquely complex relationship with body image in both looking and being seen. And this pressure to conform to gender normative expectations like masculinity and femininity. These can lead to dissociative behaviors or force individuals to seek spaces where they can express themselves in diverse ways, so online or on Instagram. And communities have formed in these online spaces like Instagram where tools like selfies are used to self express and they serve to challenge gender assumptions. And then the language, which is being applied to gender in these contexts, is being adapted from the dialogue and lived experiences of gender varying individuals as they share online. Much can be learned from a close examination of these shared narratives as I explore the deeper underlying themes related to body image. And that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you have gained some insight about my community. If you have any questions or comments, please email me. And thank you very much.